Hello, everybody, and welcome to our live stream launch event today. It's called Sarah and Friends AMA, which means Ask Me Anything, Ask Us Anything. So we hope that you'll hang out with us. We're going to be here for a while. So grab your lunch if you're in my time zone, although I know there's people, my guests are actually from across the globe, all over the place. So wherever you're at, thank you. And I plan to hang out if you can. And I am really excited to launch the Content Creation Coach podcast. So the first thing I want to do is actually walk you through my podcast page on my website. You'll find it at contentcreationcoach.com/podcast. And there you can see what the podcast itself looks like and what we're all about. The Content Creation Coach podcast says, spread your message, grow your business, reach more people, make a bigger difference. We are going to talk about the fact that because we're brand new, we would love for you to subscribe and also to leave a review when you've had a chance to listen a little bit to the show. And we will be doing some drawings for prizes for those people who leave reviews for the show. Then here we've got the links to all the different platforms, depending on how you listen to your podcasts. Most of these are live and ready to go. There is a piece of news about Apple Podcasts, which is doing a upgrade or something like this. They're in a beta for their new podcasting thing, and it's messing with new shows. So as of this morning, it still wasn't working. And so I reached out to them. And when I checked again, maybe a half an hour ago, it was actually looked different than it did prior to that. It's got like a little gray box and one of the episodes showed up. But then when I tried to click through to the app, it still didn't work. So this will be a nail biter because I'm hoping through the course of this live stream that maybe the Apple Podcasts functionality will be there for those of you who are on that. I know I'm an Apple Mac person myself, so fingers crossed on that one. It should be live very shortly. And then at the bottom here, you can see some of the most recent episodes that have been posted. And these are some of the guests that are going to be joining us today. So I can't wait. However, my first guest, Yasmin, is not her episode is not posted yet. You'll have to stay tuned. It will be posted next week, Wednesday. But I'm going to bring her on. And Yasmin, welcome. And thank you for being here.
Hey, I'm happy to be here with you. And congratulations.
Thank you so much. It's been awesome reconnecting with these kinds of folks who are guests on the podcasts and just tremendous business people. Now, Yasmin, you got to tell everybody where you are in the world and what time it is for you, because this is pretty remarkable.
I'm based in sunny Singapore, but at the moment it's not sunny. It is very, very dark because it's actually close to midnight. So I feel like I'm Cinderella on the podcast show.
Well, you look very alive for it being midnight. I'm pretty impressed. So let's dive in a little bit to some of the things we wanted to talk about. And if there are questions, we should be able to see everybody who's there ask a question throughout the course of this conversation, because each of my guests brings a different area of expertise. And Yasmin, why don't you give yourself a little bit of an introduction? Tell people what it is that you do in your business and in your work.
So I work with service-based providers who are seen in the eyes of their customers as being confusing, and people don't really get what they're actually saying or doing. And I help them become the best option available and to become that authority that they actually have to listen to and respect. And it's really about teaching them how to actually transition from selling through pitching versus telling stories to be able to connect with the audience, to help them see the world very differently, and for them to go ahead and say yes and get inspired to say yes. So it's something that I love doing. I've been doing this for nearly a decade now, from very big brands to very small brands. And it's been really, really incredible because a lot of times learning how to communicate, not from our unspoken narrative, in terms of like, oh my gosh, I'm afraid, shit, 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 but in terms of really being of service, to be like, how can I best serve my customer? And how can I actually operate from a place of love to be able to show up and say, hey, I can actually help you?
I love that. You know, it's funny, in my most recent workshop that I did, we talked about something like that, where there's that mindset people get into in a number of cases when they're having those selling conversations, but also when they're having to step in front of a video camera or create content, share their message, and they get focused on, is it perfect? Is it, you know, what are they going to think about me? Are people going to judge me? Blah, blah, blah. And that mindset shift to be able to say, what I'm going to focus on is you, whoever I'm talking to, whoever is listening to me, whoever I'm sharing with, and how can I provide value to you? How can I serve you? And it's a very different, it's more of a giving place to come from. And it just takes all of that, I don't know, judgment and criticism and self-doubt down several notches and makes it much easier, would you say?
Yeah, and I think the part that like people underestimate is like the first sale that you're ever going to have to make is actually to yourself. And that's why we go from like, the very beginning when we're selling our starting journey. The reason why the confusion happens is because the first element is like, shit, like I don't want to ask someone for money because we've been raised with that notion, like how could we ask someone for money? And then it comes across as confusion. And someone speaks to you and be like, so what you do? And then like you're like saying a lot of big words because you don't know how to simplify it. And then the second element of that is like, well, you get a bit more clear with your messaging, and then you get a little bit more confident, but you're like still going back to that fear zone. And then you operate from really a place of connection. And the final, ultimate, unforgettable authority level is when you're operating and speaking with conviction, where you're like, there's no doubt in your mind this is the best option for you if you are my right customer. And if you are someone that I can definitely help, then I want to help you. And it's because I have helped people over and over again get these amazing results that I know if you come work with my world, we're going to get the results as well. So it becomes something that you can start to speak with a very different tonality. That even though you might say the same message you might have been saying like 2 years before, because you're operating from that level of conviction, you don't really care if it's not perfect because you know, like it doesn't have to be 100% perfect because you understand the impact that you can create for somebody in their life.
Yes, I love that word. So can you go through those stages again? Conviction is where we want to get to be able to really speak from that place. Before that, you said compassion, I think. I heard that. And what was the progression there?
So the beginning is always a fear element, right? We start
Yeah.
off and
Yes.
freaking out, and then we're like, shit, this is gonna work. I remember the stage for myself because it was hilarious. It's like I remember I was working in the oil and gas sector, and I got certified as a coach. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to be a coach. Like, that's what I want to do. It's helped me so much. I want to help other people. So then I sent an email out. Like, this is before email marketing was a thing. I sent an email out to my friends and family and say, like, hey, I've had this phenomenal year. I've done all this great stuff. And I got certified as a coach. So I would love to help other people, like, author the life that they actually want to live. Right? That's always been my narrative. It's always about storytelling, whether it's for ourselves or for our customers. And people email me back. They're like, hey, I want to sign up. How much does it cost? And I was like, shit, I didn't think that far ahead. So it's like, I think it actually worked. Okay. And then you're like, then it happened, and I actually made a third of my salary from those 3 clients because I was heavily underpricing, but not different conversation.
We'll get to that as well.
We'll get to that. And what ended up happening was then I was like, shit, like this could actually work. And then I freaked out because I'm like, this is too easy. Like I get paid to do something that like comes so naturally for me. Like there's got to be a catch because like I was under the story that you had to work really hard and suffer. And it's like, well, okay. So then afterwards, for 2 months, I got no customers because I was just like in fear mode, and people come to me like, "Can I hire you?" And I'm like, "Are you sure? Do you really want to do this?" Because I was just like, I'm so freaked out. And then I went through the phase where I'm like, okay, this is what I want to commit to. But because I was not trusting, like, and operating from a space of alignment, I was confusing. Like someone would come to me like, could you help me with this? And I was like, well, that, but maybe if you had these criteria. And it was just like, what are you on about? It's a yes or no question. So like because I've gone through the different stages, I'm quite familiar. It's quite raw for me. And
Right.
because I can now operate from a place where I'm like, there's no doubt in my head. If you want to take your service-based company from 0 to 1 million, I can definitely help you do that. And I've done that already for myself. I've done that for over like a dozen other companies. So super like easy to do that over and over again. But it didn't like in the very beginning. I made it much more complicated.
Yeah, absolutely. I think people will recognize that those stages and those feelings for sure. So you mentioned about pricing, and this is one of the other keys that is wrapped up in, insecurities or perceptions that you have, as well as that confidence and conviction and whatnot. So what do you see oftentimes with people and how they're pricing themselves or their services?
Well, first of all, I think it's because like people get like such bad advice. And like what's happening around in the interwebs, people are telling you like, oh yeah, just like price what you're worth. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm worth. Like, how do you even like define what you're worth? Because how I define what I was worth when I first started is I took my salary and I divided the number of hours, and I'm like, well, I got paid $22 an hour. So I guess that's what I'm worth, right? So I ended up like multiplying. I'm like, I'm around 30 because I'm like such a baller. And then I realized that actually by the time I started doing the time calculations, the person who works at like McDonald's makes more than me. And the value that I was actually giving to my customers was so much more than like flipping burgers. No judgment on that, but it's just like it's quite life-changing stuff. So from there, I started to learn like different things about pricing. And then with pricing, it's a whole different ballgame. You can do like cost value pricing, value-based pricing, all sorts of things. But it was like quite funny, all the mistakes I made because I was focused on like hearing advice like that or asking on the other end of the spectrum, will someone pay for this? Well, depends on who you're asking. If you're asking someone who's just starting out, maybe not. You ask someone who has a bigger problem, probably yes. Like, and even the number of it is going to be very, very different as well. So it's been very interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. And so what else? Let's see if we've got anything going on over here. All right. So, when it comes to that pricing process, I don't know, do you have an exercise that you go through with people, or how do you approach that?
Yeah. So for me, it always starts off, which sounds really crazy, but like, what are your goals? Like that is like the thing. And I'll give you an example. I'm going to show you. So a couple of years ago, I made my first product. And my first product was this, which is a super cute card called the 30-Day Fearless Challenge, right? Physical product. And I had a monthly goal. And when my time, like in retrospect, it makes a lot of sense. And I invested, I got the stuff designed. They're beautiful cards. They're like every single day a quote around fear so that you can build your confidence around it. It's really nice. Like I spent a few $1,000 to make them. But when it came down to actually my goals, like numerically, like I have to sell a shit ton of these cards to hit my goals. So although it's like a super cool project, it doesn't mathematically work with the goals that I had set because I didn't have a clear path for it. So it all starts off with, first of all, knowing what is your goals. And then it's also from there is really to understand like how do you actually get there, right? And how do you get there? Not in terms of like, what is my opinion, but in terms of what is also like happening in your market. So to give you an example of this, let's say, for example, like you're a personal trainer. And like my personal trainer, like the range I remember I was looking for personal trainers is from $80 to about $200 or $300. I don't know how much it costs in the US, but this is how much it costs in Singapore. So like let's say for example you're a personal trainer and that's like the average one-on-one session, and you decide to start charging $1,000 per session. It like if the market is used to spending a certain amount, you can't probably like get on the higher end like 300 to 50. But like no matter how fantastic you are, it is unlikely you can charge $1,000.
Sure.
Like you're not getting any customers. But the reason why it's important to know this is because if, for example, like you were like me when I first started, my first package was for $300 for 10 sessions. Like I was clearly undercharging. I was also 20, so like it doesn't make a difference. It was a starting point of my pricing journey. And so that's why I'm like, have no shame. You start with our numbers, right? The numbers come out, and the number is not like something that's stuck for life. So once you start to become aware of that and start to figure out your mathematics, then it becomes a lot easier to kind of see like, is this actually possible? Is this actually something I can actually do or not?
Yeah.
And then also from there, it's like understanding like whatever the offer that you have, like where does it actually fit in? Like, is it like an entry level product? Is it like, for example, a high tier product, a mid tier product? And once you know where it fits in terms of your offerings, then you can even position it very differently, because it might be, for example, something that's such high value, but because it's a low tier product, you're not going to want to price so high, because that's pretty much the entry point for people to get to know who you are and how you can help them. So all those things are part of the process of figuring out how to price. But a lot of times people would just pick a number out of thin air. And then they'll feel like, oh my gosh, like shit, like, will someone pay for this? And they'll freak out. And it's like, well, duh, like if you pull out your butt, you're going to probably freak out about it. And the second part of it, like once you price it, is how do you actually justify your prices? Because if you're not able to articulate the value of what you're actually offering to your customers, then that's where you're gonna know. Is because if you're not showing up, you're not learning how to speak about it with such conviction or compassion, you're gonna be like, but like, I'm like, and I give you an example of this. Like my last business, I had a production agency, and we grew it from 0 to $1 million in 18 months. And my business partner, like God bless her, she's such a sweetheart, but she would actually tell our customers on the phone, it's like, yeah, our prices are expensive. And I'm just like, okay, if that's what you believe, then like, why would your customer want to pay us if you're telling our customers our prices are expensive? Like we had 3 different offices in 3 different countries, right? So there is like a cost for managing this operation. And that was how she would operate when it came to the prices, because she just got really uncomfortable with it, right?
Yes. Yeah, it's that alignment, and you can feel it. If your price is in the right place, but you also you yourself have to be in alignment with that and with what you're offering and with the whole picture for that all to work. Now I know I want to get into some more sort of fun stories as well, but I know you've got something to offer people. So you covered a lot just now walking through this, and it's tricky for people who are popping in and out on a live stream. So talk to us about the program that you have to really help people with figuring out this whole pricing thing.
Yeah, so I have a program called the Confident Pricing Formula, which kind of walks you through each stage with all the tools to help you. And the tool that everybody loves to bits is the pricing calculator, right? The profitable pricing calculator. Because like oftentimes you don't actually know if what you're actually offering is profitable or not. And we have to look at it in the grand scheme of things. Because if you're gonna go in with something and you're like not aware if it actually works, then it's kind of a waste of your time. And at the end of the month, you're gonna feel very drained. You're gonna feel very resentful to your customers. It's not even their fault, but you're like angry at them because you're broke. I know. I was there. Um, And it's all because you didn't learn a little bit of like how to look at it. So that's why for the summit, as a gift to help you in this process, if you use the code CCC, which stands for the Content Creation Coach, by the way, you'll have access to this course for free. And it'll walk you through all the different steps, and it will really help you within 90 minutes price your services profitably.
Awesome. Such a fantastic offer. So I put it on the screen there. Grab it, and you'll find out more about what Yasmin knows and spend a little more time on this because, like I said, that it goes by fast. It's a lot to process, and people work on this for months, sometimes even years. I've seen people underpricing themselves. So definitely check it out. And then,
Yeah.
Yasmin, I want to ask you more of a fun story, and you've shared some already. But since this is a content creation coach event, part of what this communication that we're talking about, whether it's selling or talking with customers and talking about prices or just sharing through content, I still think that confidence and conviction is really important. So there's a crossover there. But tell me a story about sort of a scary moment in your business journey. And maybe it was stepping out and speaking or selling, or maybe it was, I don't know, whatever that looked like for you. What comes to mind?
Yeah, so that looks like for me is very, very clear. It was because like the reason why I care so much about pricing is because I had a moment where I was selling stuff. It's just that like I always had issues with cash flow because like I just didn't like think about it. I didn't think it through. I just didn't know how to think about it through. So I remember this moment where it was I didn't have enough cash in the bank. And I realized that the only thing between me having cash in the bank and getting my dream customers was becoming comfortable to share with who I could help, how I could help them. And it was one of those moments where I realized, wait, so I'm actually doing a disservice to people. I'm doing a disservice because I can actually help them. And I'm doing a disservice for myself. And I'm struggling just because I'm not speaking up. And what was really, really incredible is as a result of that, like within a week later, I got invited to speak at an event. And I started speaking as a band, right? And at the end of the event, I got 3 clients. And that's when I realized the power of like struggling to the power of getting actually incredible results isn't actually a long journey. In our minds, I think it's a long journey. We have to struggle for a long time. But sometimes just becoming comfortable sharing what you have to share can completely transform your life. And I remember for me that moment, I can still remember I was like feeling like shit. Like it's been a few years in my business. I'm like, why can't I figure it out? And it's just because I just didn't know how to look at numbers. I ended up like overthinking it. And then I was like, oh, I'm such an imposter. Why would someone pay me if I get the numbers correct? And the moment just getting up on stage and just speaking and getting my few customers, I was like, wow, if I just speak more, I will sell more.
Mm,
And over the past 10 years, how I've been able to grow my company has been through speaking more.
wow. Okay.
The virtual stage, whether it's a physical stage, whether it's in a podcast. And I help my customers do exactly the same thing. I help them learn how to be able to craft a narrative that is actually helping someone see themselves in it, right?
Yes.
Helping themselves see why this is the best option versus somebody else. So, for example, like in terms of even like, underpricing, what happens? Like, why is it that you shouldn't underprice? Well, what happens is, let's say you're underpriced, which I did for many years. I was struggling because it didn't work out, and I didn't work out. And because I was underpricing, I didn't have the capacity to actually become better at my craft. I couldn't learn stuff to get better at my craft. So I did stuff that was kind of useless. I couldn't also afford to hire someone because I was stuck in a cycle where I couldn't afford to do those things. And then at the end of the day, I started getting angry at my customers. And their fault. It was like totally my fault, right? So when you think about stuff like this, you can realize, oh, I can just solve this by doing a 90-minute exercise that can help you. And I can do this by understanding how to speak about what I have to offer, as well as how to speak about it in a way that just feels very natural for you. So I'm like adjusted for somebody else.
Oh my gosh. And I love this. So we have another guest coming on in a little bit who's all about speaking and helping people become better speakers. And so to hear you say that, and I really think speaking is a form of content, whether you're on a stage or on a screen like this, or on, behind a microphone doing a podcast or a video or whatever it is, that is how you share your value and connect with people. So
Yeah,
fantastic, sure. Yasmin. I just love it. Do you have any last words here? Although you're allowed to hang out with me. What I might do here, see if I can share something. I want to share this. This is such a fun platform to play around with. So we're here today talking about the Content Creation Coach podcast. And like I said, you can hear more from Yasmin on her episode, which is going to land next week, Wednesday. But right now there are several episodes out there on most of the platforms. And we're going to take a moment and check Apple. Do you want to check Apple with me? I don't know if you heard my story, but they've been struggling. And so I've been waiting for them to respond and tell me what's going on. So I'm going to see if it's going to go. Come on, Apple. So it still looks the same as a little bit ago. I've got one episode that I can kind of see. Listen on Apple Podcasts. All right. No confetti yet.
I'll make confetti.
What?
I'll throw confetti.
Confetti, right?
I was in my office for probably 3 weeks, because for my birthday, my friends got I think 30 balloons or 35 balloons. So I had the balloons hanging. I could throw them in the air, but they kind of deflated, so I had to throw them out. I love you. So I'm please go away now. It's horrible.
Well, we're going to do confetti anyway. Are you ready? Just for fun. Yeah. This is my confetti. So everybody who's watching, so that we can do some more celebrating, is check out contentcreationcoach.com/podcast and click on, we're on Stitcher, we're on Spotify, we're on Audible, we're on all sorts of places. And then leave a comment on either Facebook or YouTube, wherever you are, and let us know that you subscribed, and we will celebrate together, because that's what this is all about. So Yasmin, thank you again for being here. And I'm going to bring on my next guest, everybody, who is from another part of the world. This, like I said, is a global event, and he's here from Cyprus. Satori Matthew, welcome to the live stream. How's it going?
I'm doing great. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I love it.
Awesome. So great to be here. And I'm so excited about the podcast.
Me too. I'm going to change things around. I'm having so much fun with this platform here. It's a ball. So
just my light here. There we go.
We've got a few folks hanging out with us. And again, everybody, Michael, you're chatting away here. I love it. If you've got questions along the way, please chime in. And Satori, why don't you tell everybody a little more about where you are, who you are, and what you do?
Yes, beautiful. So first of all, I am right now in Cyprus, a beautiful Mediterranean island. But I lived in Los Angeles for 25 years. So I just moved here right before lockdown. And I came here to do an event, to teach and create an event for entrepreneurs. And I got stuck here. But I love it, and I invested in the property here. And now I'm creating a beautiful community for entrepreneurs. And now I'm here.
So, oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting roller coaster ride to come here. But for you who don't know me yet, I love optimizing human potential and optimizing how we think, how we behave, and help people grow their businesses. So it's the optimization. I would say I'm kind of the optimization guy, and from that part, when I came here, I saw all the opportunities, which made me fall in love with the island and create what I'm creating here today.
Oh, that's so cool. It's a situation where I'm not even sure how much lemon there was to in being stuck in a place like Cyprus, but to always, make the most of what's given to you, the situation that you're in. And you're really an example of that in so many ways. I may put you on the spot real quick because I want to keep this interesting and engaging for people. I've now been sitting here for a half an hour. And I know you work a lot on people's both their businesses, but also their sort of wellness, their well-being, being able to operate, like you said, at your optimal functionality. So do you have an exercise that you can do with me and anybody else who wants to join in where we can maybe move or engage in something?
Well, physiology wise, I could, but then it would be hard. You're not going to see me right now, my whole body. But one thing that I do, which I can do sitting down, which is one of the things that I trained and I used for myself for many years. Actually, when I was writing my book, I did this assignment or this exercise every 50 minutes. So I would concentrate writing for 50 minutes. And then I would do these 1.5 minute workout. And basically what I do is I do squats standing, and then I push forward. So I thrust my hips forward, squats, thrusting my hips forward. And right? So you do 10 of those quickly. And then I use my arms like this, and I kind of go like this onto my thighs. Okay.
I love it.
And third one, I go up here. So hands go like this at the top, and then at the bottom like this. So they go like this. And then straight up. And I do those 10 times 3. So there's kind of a tempo to it. So once you're done with it, you really have your pulse, your blood is pumping, your oxygen, but it's designed to work all the different core areas of your body and optimizing your breath. The key to this, actually I have a video over here. I could send it to you. You can I'm actually doing it. I'll post it on my Instagram.
Okay, sounds good.
I'll do a reel for everyone.
Awesome.
Yes. So anyway,
so talk to me about. So I'm a dancer.
And balances your nervous system.
Exactly. And so I was just saying I'm a dancer. I'm a very kinesthetic, physical oriented kind of a person. And so if I sit at my desk for too long and I don't move, and you're trying to do stuff or trying to write or trying to be creative or trying to work or trying to communicate or connect, at a certain point, it fades. And so talk about what the sort of that crossover, that importance of stopping every once in a while and being mindful of your physical state.
So I didn't catch the question.
Well, why is that important? Do you have any underneath why and how that works, how it impacts us? Yes.
So when we are sitting, first of all, usually we collapse right here. We collapse right here by the sternum here. Poof, collapses. When this collapses and your shoulders go forward because you're sitting here writing, automatically your chest collapses. And so your diaphragm, you collapse and you stop breathing. And so it builds up a lot of tension. It builds a lot of stress in your body. And so once you stand up and you breathe, I usually say that, if you think about one key component, your brain, you have 3 brains built upon each other, a physical, an emotional, and the logical brain, right? All built on each other, and they don't communicate that well with each other. So when you are focused, and you're using your prefrontal cortex, you want to make sure that you do something to shift it, to reset your brain. So when you're being focused for writing, then you can go back to doing something physical or do something emotional like hugging or laughing or doing something that changes the brain. And that way you're resetting your brain and optimizing your own physiology.
Amazing. Okay, so say that again. Physical, logical,
So you have
and
physical, emotional, and logical brain, right?
Yeah.
And so if you've been using your conscious mind to create, to be like focused and to be intent, then shift it, do something physical, like take a walk, do some stretching, breathe, do some meditation for a minute, even a minute, or synchronize your breath. So I do a breath that I inhale and exhale at the same tempo, with the same pressure. So it's like inhale and exhale is the same, and it balances your nervous system.
Yes.
Or do some hugging or some,
who misses hugging? Oh my gosh, I miss it so much. I wish I could give you a big hug someday. I'm going to make it to Cyprus, to your place, which we'll talk about. And that will be fantastic. So, people might think we're a little crazy, and I do these kinds of things in my workshops and in my work because I've seen it makes a big difference when people are stuck in that logical brain and they're focused on some particular problem or thing that they're trying to do. One of the ways to crack out of that is to move, get into the physical brain, get into your body, get some oxygen flowing. And it's amazing what opens up in terms of ideas and connections, and it's not sort of a formulaic kind of a thing. It's just about opening yourself up and being able to show up as more authentically you. I'm going to go there because I know that's another big thing that's important to you in the work that you do is, why does it matter for people to really be connected and aligned with who they are when they're talking about showing up for their business?
Great question. So I believe three things. Can I share 3 secrets?
Absolutely. Please.
Okay, awesome. So the first one is to understand that we all have a set of values, okay? And most people, they live not in alignment. They're misaligned from their values. So therefore, because of that, they walk around minimizing themselves. They don't have the inspiration, right? They're looking for motivation from the outside. But when you're inspired from the inside, you are connected to what matters to you most. So when you try to change yourself to be like someone else or to make people like you, then you're not owning who you are. So the first thing that I say, if you want to create amazing work, you need to first of all identify what are your values, what are your core values. And I always start from there, because when you own your core values and first, number one, know what they are. Number two is align with them so that you start living according to your values. When that happens, you become more energetic, you become more inspired, you become more focused, you become more productive, and ultimately you feel fulfilled, right? So that's the part of it. So when you create, let's say, content, right? When you create content that is in alignment with your values, then creating content does not become an effort. It becomes energizing and inspiring. So for example, for my social media, for example, I have 5 categories and I picked my top 5 values, right? So health being one, business building, personal growth, human optimization, right? Family. Like I look at the things that are really most important to me. And as I'm creating content alignment with that, it doesn't have to be forced. I don't have to push myself. I'm inspired from within. Okay, so that's secret number 1. Create content or do work that is in alignment with your values. Okay, number 1. And number 2 is to be authentic. What I mean by that, own your worth. So when you own your worth, you're not minimizing yourself. You're not apologizing. You're not doing things so to please people. So if you think about it like this, I look at it as like the balance. When you put other people on pedestals, right? The moment you do this, automatically, without even thinking about it, you minimize yourself. Even if it's not intentional, the moment someone is on a pedestal, you automatically become minimized, lower values. So by owning yourself and owning your worth, right? Being true and authentic in alignment with your values, you become unapologetic, and your content will reflect that. I see so many people that they're looking for praise, or they're looking for approval, or they're looking for people to give them an okay, rather than just loving their content, being authentic with the content. And what happens, you become much more magnetic to your message, because people will feel connected because you're real. Okay, so number one, do work that is alignment with your values. Number two, own your worth, right? And number three, I look at as very important, is that you want to find, and this goes kind of hand in hand. We talked about this, a little bit before, you and I, about creating an environment, right? And what I mean by that is that you got to find a mentor, right? That is what I call someone that has walked the path that you want to walk, that is outstanding at what they do. Always look for the best, because if you don't train with the best, what happens is that you may get really poor advice. Even though this person may have really good intention, but because they're kind of mediocre, but you're trying to, it's like let's take playing tennis with someone that is like worse than you, or like equal as you. You're not going to grow. You're not going to learn. Right? Mm-hmm. So you want someone that is above you, but it's not only that. You want someone that has the skill set, that loves teaching, because then they will break down the most efficient, most effective way for you to learn. Mm-hmm. And that will save you years of frustration, years of emotional, because you're not growing as fast as you would like.
Yeah.
And with that, of course, comes what we talked about, is designing an environment with people that support you, that support your values, but also challenges your values, so you can grow.
Yes.
So anyway, so that was my 3 secrets to creating amazing content, or growing your business, or whatever you want to use for it. Live in alignment with your values, create content in alignment with it, own your worth so you can be authentic and real with it. Number 3, find an amazing mentor, an outstanding mentor that has a high standard and loves teaching you. And that, I would say, when you have an environment like that, you become completely unshakable. You become unstoppable.
Yeah. And that third, it's like the third piece is so critical in getting to the first 2, because that sounds amazing. There's so much in number 1 and number 2, that, owning who you are and showing up authentically and knowing your value and all that stuff. But that's really hard to do sometimes for people by themselves when they're in their own little bubble. So that third piece of having a mentor, having a community, having a supportive environment is what helps you to get those first 2 figured out, I think.
Yes. I mean, that support is so important. Yeah. So when I was writing my book, Unshakable Wealth, I was sitting down for 4 hours every day. Okay. And the support was that I didn't have to make my own food. I didn't have to make my own buttered coffee in the morning to fuel my brain, right? I didn't have to do all those other things. The support was there in place, so I could just focus, right? No phone only timer for 50 minutes, 10-minute break, 50-minute work, 10-minute break. That was it. 4 hours every day.
And amazing what you can accomplish if you can do that for yourself. Oh my gosh, there's definitely a theme going today already. And I know it's going to continue, because I know who's coming up after you too. So it's just, I love it, because we are the kinds of people, and I think that's how I got connected with all of you guys, who, believe that most of business is about relationships. It's about making those personal connections and, being authentic and caring and making a difference. And so that is how, that's what content is to me, is taking all of that and sharing it with the world. So, Scott's with us. I don't know if he must be one of your friends. He says Satori is the man. Thank you,
Thanks, Scott.
I love it. So, in some of the time that we have left, why don't you talk about the environment that you've created? Because I find it extremely inspiring. And I hope that people will look around and see what they can do as well for themselves.
Yes, beautiful. So that's beautiful. So first of all, like I said earlier, I lived in the US. I lived in Los Angeles for 25 years. And as I was living there, I realized that in those 25 years, I moved equal amount of times, okay? Looking for my spot, looking for my place. I lived everywhere in Los Angeles. But when I first came there, I felt like I was home. But throughout these years, for the last 25 years, I've been researching human and business optimization. How do you optimize your life and your business in all kinds of ways? And that's a lot of work. I mean, it's not easy to find the best in the world. How do you find the critical pieces that make people, what's the difference between the people that are the best and the people that are a little, below, or people that are very poor in performance? So as I was looking at that, and the research that I did around that, which took a lot of years, and it's been refined throughout all these years, what I noticed is that throughout the research is that you've heard this, and I'm sure everybody's watching this, you've heard it before as well, is that you truly become who you spend the time with the most, right? And so because you will shift and adopt your standards, right? And you will adapt according to it. So a lot of times, because of our desire and our need for love and connection, we will change who we are, our identity, to make sure that we're still connected to this person. So if you're picking or selecting a person in your life that has a lower standards than you have, right? But your need for connection in love is so strong that you will adapt to lower yourself, then you won't grow, right? You will sabotage and you will lower yourself until you get fed up with it. You realize it's so unfulfilling that you'll break free and pick a new peer group, right? So when we talk about that, when I came to Cyprus the first time, I came in to do an event, like I said earlier, and I did the workshop, came here, and I stayed for a week. And I just saw this beautiful community. I mean, this beautiful nature, like organic, beautiful nature, ocean, the cleanest water in the Mediterranean, beautiful mountains. You can hike, you can swim, you can do all kinds of cool stuff, eat great food. But a seed was planted in my head. And I was like, wow, I want to be here. I want to invest here. But then something else kicked in. I realized that with all the work that I've been doing for the last 25 years of finding a community, understanding how we become who we spend time with, I thought this place would be the place where we can develop a place for entrepreneurs, for growth-minded people, for health-conscious people, where literally you can grow your own food, right? And have your own place for like a fraction, literally. Like I have this beautiful, it's a beautiful 2-floor villa with a rooftop terrace looking over the ocean and the mountains. And this kind of place wouldn't be even a 1-bedroom apartment in LA.
Oh my gosh. Right.
You can buy 3 of these, or maybe 5 of them for the same price. So
amazing.
So then I thought this would be the environment where people can actually come here. We can study together. We can collaborate together. We can grow together. And it's a place where you are taking care of your physiology with the food and the sun and the ocean and the walks and everything. You have the community of environment of entrepreneurs because you are feeding each other's minds, right? And you're building these relationships. And in the same environment, be able to build your business where you can grow. And if you're an entrepreneur, obviously all you need is your laptop, right? And your phone.
Right. That's right.
At least today, right?
That's
Today's
right.
world.
Oh, absolutely. How many of us are working from home, working from wherever? And why not take advantage of that and go somewhere beautiful, go somewhere different? Honestly, for those of us, so Cyprus is on my bucket list for sure, but on a daily basis, just pick up your laptop and go somewhere other than your desk, other than your office.
Yes.
And it makes a huge difference. So, while you were talking, I'm going to connect a few dots. If there's folks who've been with us this whole time before you, Yasmin was here. We talked a little bit about pricing, and I was starting to realize that what you're talking about, who you surround yourself with and those standards that you have and that you see around you, I think impact the way people value what they do and what they can charge. Do you
Yes.
see where I'm going with this? And so people get worried because they're like, oh my gosh, if I raise my prices, my current clients are going to leave. Well, maybe you don't have the right clients right now. You know what I mean? Maybe it's time to find a new group, a new pool of potential customers who are at that next level. And until you do it and see it, it's so easy to get stuck at that lower level. Do you know what would you say
So
that?
true. So true. And that's actually how I started, because doing more and more of business. I mean, I did a lot of relationship work many years ago, and I still do. I love helping people in the relationships. But what I noticed that when I started working with that, I kept raising my worth and owning my worth. So I kept raising my prices. And so when people start understanding, like, in the past, like when I was working with people that were in the relationship space, I would literally charge $250,000 to work with a couple, right? And the reason I could do that, it was not because I believe that my worth is so much above, is that I own my worth, and I realized that the work that we created for them and with them, it was worth everything. Because the way I looked at it, because you also got to pick who you work with, right? So I don't work with anybody, because I like people that are have very specific personality traits. So one of the things that I realized is that the way I owned it for myself to begin with was that I looked at what would it cost for this person not to work with me? I mean, what are the consequences to their life if they don't do this with me? And what I realized is that, hey, if you're a millionaire, right, or multimillionaire, or if you're a decamillionaire, right, and you go through a divorce, you will go from that, and you will be going, half of that is not yours anymore.
Yeah.
Right. So is that worth $250,000 to turn around your marriage? Right. To maybe find connection, and to maybe not lose your family, to not see your kids every 2 weeks, or whatever. So but I think that when it comes down to pricing, I think it comes down to the second secret that I talked about owning your worth. So let me give you for everybody watching this right now, if you want one tool, if you follow through on this assignment that I'll give you right now, you will, without question, raise your worth. Your worth will increase radically. But you can only be able to do it if you're committed to raising your worth. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. Right?
Okay. All right.
Okay. So you look at yourself and you look at your business, and you ask yourself the question. In which way can I add value? Right? What are the benefits? What are the benefits that I bring and to my business? How does it serve my clients? How does what I do and who I am serve my clients, right? And the way you do that is you're going to write down a minimum of 250 benefits. And so the way you do it is so let me ask you this. What is one benefit? What is one benefit to your clients?
Well,
working with you?
Easy one is greater visibility, more traffic.
Yes. And what's the benefit of that?
More leads, more clients.
Yes. And what's the benefit of that?
More money, but I would say on another branch, more with content creation, more confidence, more clarity.
Yes.
Yep.
So you take each of those. So let's say more confidence.
Okay.
And you take that one. You take that one strand and say, okay, and what's the benefit of being more confident?
Mm-hmm.
And you take that.
Right.
So you take that 2 to 3 levels down.
Gotcha.
So that way we can see that 250 benefits to your service and to who you are is not very difficult, but it's a way to create a matrix in your brain. You're literally creating new nerve cells that did not exist before. Like these nerve cells did not exist before because you haven't done this assignment before. Mm-hmm. So once you do the assignment, you're literally creating new answers, creating new nerve cells, and you're expanding your brain and creating connections that were not there before, and you become unshakable. That's why when I wrote the book, Unshakable Wealth is about the real wealth, right? You becoming wealthy because you're unshakable.
Yes.
Yes.
Powerful stuff. Oh my goodness.
I got a mosquito bite here.
Oh no.
Yes.
Wow, Satori, I love talking with you as always. If we can end on a more of a content related note, not that all of this isn't very interconnected and aligned anyway, but you are out there all the time, and as you said, you've written a book, you're creating content, you're doing videos. So when it comes to that, putting yourself out there in terms of sharing through content, what would you say to people? Because I know you've even helped some of your clients with things like that.
Yes. Well, going back to what I said earlier, right? Owning your worth is that you need to realize that when you create content that is in alignment with your values, you are sharing who you are. Mm-hmm. And so the key to this is to not be selfish and focus on yourself. So by owning your worth and owning your value, realizing that you are the value. You are the value. Then you owe it to people around you and outside to share your gifts, to share your knowledge, to share your wisdom. Mm-hmm. Not doing that will be a selfish, unloving act. And I really believe that strongly.
Yeah.
Like I know that if you're watching this right now, you're listening to this right now, and you do the assignment that we just gave you of writing down the benefits to your work, you will own that. You won't question your worth anymore.
Yeah. Well, not only that would turn into topics practically. Like you could look at that list and be able to have something to talk about, at any moment.
Yes. Yes. It will be part of the fabric of your being. Your soul will vibrate about it.
Fantastic. Satori, thank you so much for being here. I'm going to put up your social one more time. He's great on all the different social platforms. So be sure to check it out. And of course, his episode is live on the Content Creation Coach podcast right now. So you can check that out as well. Satori, thanks so much.
Thank you so much. It was great being here. I'll see you soon.
Loved it. And I am going to bring on my next guest here shortly. But I wanted to, since we are having challenges with Apple Podcasts, we are live on all the other platforms. I can put my link up there for a moment. But I also want to invite you, if you want to stay in touch with me, with Content Creation Coach, with the podcast episodes that are coming out, to head over to my website. We have some new website content that also just launched, including a resources page. Let's see if I can get over to it here. So there are several freebies, right, that you can download and check out and learn from. One is a kit to help you create your next lead magnet. We've got the website wellness workshop, what your website content really needs to be engaging and capture leads. 40 topic starters for your content. I have a chapter from my book that's about content's dance partners, including website, email marketing, and social media, as well as a book called The 3 Mistakes That Are Making Your Content Fall Flat, which has some fantastic imagery actually from when I lived in Switzerland. So all of these are there at contentcreationcoach.com. So please go check that out. And then I'm excited to bring on my next guest, who is Amanda Rose Ego. Welcome to the live stream. How's it going?
It's awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much. And it's Igo, and it gets messed up all the time. So
Shoot.
That's okay. I've heard Igor, Igo. Yeah, Ego.
Oh my goodness.
So happy to be here.
Well, I'm just having fun with my backgrounds and mixing things up. So this is going to be our thing here for the moment.
Awesome. Love it.
Isn't this fun? This is a fun platform to be on. I'm enjoying it. So Amanda, tell everybody where you are and who you are and what you do.
I would be happy to do that. I am based in Florida, and I have clients from all over the globe. I go by the 6-figure speaking success strategist. I'm an award-winning speaking expert and best-selling author, and I specialize in helping my clients do 3 things: magnetize their audience, monetize their message, and make an impact. The magnetize is so that when they go out and present, they captivate the audience. All eyes are on them in a good way, meaning that they are captivating them with their information, their delivery, and their presence. And the monetize is when they go out and speak, they actually make money speaking, because many times people go out and present, they say, I don't make any money doing this. It doesn't make sense as a tool in my business. And there's strategies that help you do that. And make an impact is, I like to say, I am driven by impact. So I'll always attract those people that are fully invested in making a difference in the world.
Oh, amen. That's what today is all about. I love it. And, I think we're aligned that way. Mm-hmm. And my previous guests, everybody here is about sharing, bringing value, bringing our purpose, making our difference in the world. And, we do that in different ways through content and through speaking. We've talked about this before. I think speaking is a form of content creation, and it's something that, people get so nervous about, and it's certainly a skill that you can learn and that you can get better at, both in terms of standing in front of a room full of people, as well as, getting in front of a camera and doing things like this. So what do you say to people in terms of helping them to overcome some of those challenges and hesitancies that they have around speaking?
So let's look at it from 2 different platforms, right? So the online version and the in-person, because it's very different.
Sure.
Right? Online is when you're speaking online, you're talking this little camera, right? It's like a little box, and you do have to treat it that way. You do have to treat it in the sense that you are speaking to one person at a time. Like right now, I'm speaking to Sarah, but I'm speaking to a group, but I'm speaking to one person. That's my intention.
Yeah.
Another thing that you want to do is to help you really feel really comfortable in front of a camera and to connect with it. Imagine that you're talking to somebody that you love and adore, that you feel unconditional love from. It could be your cat, it could be your dog, it could be your husband, it could be your mother, your sister. Who do you feel that unconditional love from? And talk to them. Because when I first started speaking in front of a camera, I looked like a deer in headlights. It was, I am Amanda Rose. It was awful, horrible, right? So there was no energy and no vitality in it. And it was really stiff. And the way I learned to kind of do it from a perspective of talking to, I would pick my dog Sunny. I love my husband, but my dog Sunny is really totally unconditional, right? 100%. and he just loves everybody and everything. So I imagine that I talked to Sunny, and my whole delivery changed because I got way more comfortable and spoke from an authentic place. And so even the things I want to communicate came out clearer from just that little shift. Then when you're speaking to a live audience, it's very different than this one-to-one.
Yeah.
Because you've got to speak to the entire audience. Every person in that room, just like on the camera, needs to feel like you're speaking to them.
Yeah.
So there are things that you want to do to really have that essence of that you are connecting with all of them. And one of the things I love to teach my clients to do is the moment they start speaking, you do a heart scan. So you'll notice the difference when you see other speakers. That some speakers will come up, they walk, and they start talking. Right? How y'all doing today? Everybody great, right? So then they haven't taken a moment to ground their own energy and to connect with the audience. So I like to do what's a heart scan, where you stop, plant your feet, and then you scan the audience. Turn the corners up on your mouth, and then scan the audience with your eye contact. Just 2 to 3 seconds, maybe 4 seconds, depending on the size of the room. It allows you to ground and allows you to connect with them before you ever open your mouth.
I love that. It makes a difference. It's another one of those sort of soft tricks that people are like, really, does that really work? And it does. It makes a huge difference in your connection, in your intention, in what your presence, I would say.
Yep.
Be really present and focused on what you're doing. So I love that. I teach similar stuff when it comes to content creation, both, in speaking like this, like you said, and even in writing. Usually when it comes to content, you want to be speaking as though you're speaking directly to that one person. And, one of the things I say is look for those words, you and I. Like, you and I are in a conversation right now. And even if I get an email that I know you sent to, hundreds or thousands of people, I still want to feel like you are talking to me, those words. Do you have anything like that in terms of, speaking in language and first person or those kinds of things?
Yes, I totally agree with you. There are times to use the statement we, there's times to use the statement you, and there's times to use this statement as that where you're not talking specifically like they. So there's places where those work, right? So when you're talking about we, if you were talking about having a movement, we want to change the world. If you're talking about someone hiring you and moving forward with services, you works in that place. Also, we might be worked in the sense of this is how we can move you forward. And so it's times where it's individualized. Sometimes it's we, and then the they is when you might be talking about an outside story experience. You want to be conscious of those things.
Gotcha. All right. So I know I just shared actually right before I brought you on, I have a book called 3 Mistakes That Are Making Your Content Fall Flat. Sometimes that language, like, hey, everybody, in an email that says, hey, all of you, makes it feel like you're not talking directly to that one person is one of the mistakes that I often see. When it comes to speaking, what is a common mistake that you see, especially when people are trying to share about themselves or their story?
Well, our stories are very personal to us, right? So we lived it. We breathed it. So let me take a step back. When we talk about story, we're typically in my work, we're talking about a breakdown moment where you had a breakthrough, where you learned to shift your life, make changes, and then how do you tie it into the work that you do today? So I always think of a story as an easy frame for a story is here's the breakdown, here's the breakthrough, and tie it into your business message, right? 3 simple, clear steps. I teach more intensive steps when I work with people or people attend my events, but that's 3 great steps that you can think when putting your story. The challenge with stories is they are very, very, very personal. So we don't always know what to include, what not to include. And men and women are different. Now I'm going to say this, not all men and not all women fall into the information that I'm about to share with you. So men tend to tell stories really quickly. So if you ask a guy about some of your friends had a baby, right? right? And they'll say, oh, we had a baby boy, right? Oh, who was in the delivery room? I don't know. How many pounds does the baby? I don't know. You know, how long was she in labor for? I don't know, right? It's very, very quick and to the point. And remember, it's not all men, but that's typical.
Mm-hmm.
And then women, we want to tell you the whole enchilada. We'll know all the details, who was in the waiting room, how much the baby weighed, what time was the baby born, all of that information, the hospital. We want to give you the whole thing. I had a client named Joe who is a healer, and today he's a healer, and he was terminally ill. And when I worked with him, I said to him, well, let me tell me your story. Well, I was terminally ill and now I'm fine. Would you like to know more about Joe? Like what happened, right? Where's all the details? So we flushed out information that was essential, not a bunch of not necessary fluffy stuff, but the details that were important, and then connected it to the emotion, because emotion is what brings home those pieces. Emotion is what gives that sense of what you experienced. Things like him not being able to walk down to the mailbox to get the mail, not being able to play with his children. How did he feel as a dad not being able to play with his kids? So and then with the excess stuff, you got to get rid of things that you don't need to know. So if you're talking, I often share an experience of when I was 6 years old and I came home to find out that my dad disappeared. When I tell that story, I don't tell you that the house was yellow. I don't tell you that I lived in a middle-class neighborhood in New Jersey. I don't tell you that what my dad did for a living. None of that stuff is necessary. Only the essential information is key in those things, and then tie it into the emotion. And I'm going to give you one other suggestion too, which is very profound in how you do this. The death stories. Somebody died. So I learned when I was doing a 2-day workshop at the time, years ago, I had somebody share their story and then I retold their story. I'm really great at retelling people's stories and making it really a magical experience. And this person was a pharmaceutical rep and her dad passed away. So we did all this stuff about the passing of her death. And I watched the entire room's energy go down. And I couldn't get them back for the rest of the day. Because in their minds, they're all thinking about who they lost and the sadness that they felt. So in a death story, you can only touch on those lightly. Like one of my past clients, Curry, her mom had passed away. So her story and the mom part of her story went something like this. When my mom was passing away, she said to me, Curry, live your life for yourself. Live your life for yourself, because I lived my entire life for everybody else. Then she talked about how she was living her life for everybody else, right? How did that show up? But only touched on the death story just a tiny bit, because otherwise it tanks the entire audience's energy. And the same thing will happen on video. If you go deeply into a death story, they're just going to be an emotional ball of tears and not being able to move forward and really hear the rest of the information that you have to share.
That's right. Yeah. And being attuned to that energy, like you were saying, the energy of the room, and knowing what direction it's going and how people are affected. Yeah, absolutely. You know, I'm a very positive energy kind of person. But I'm wondering too, if there's a flip side to that. Is there such a thing as too much positivity? You know, I do think you have to take people on an emotional, give them an emotional experience. And if you just stay in one place the whole time, that also maybe loses some impact. Would you say that that's true?
You're 100%. I just did a boot camp with some of my Invincible clients, which is my year-long program. And one of the individuals is absolutely beautiful soul, moves with such grace and ease in her life. You love being around her. And what happened when she was presenting, it was all one note, like this, the whole entire time. There was nothing that was exciting for a moment, taking it back a level for a moment, right? Hitting home a point really hard, not hard physically, but hard in the sense of the energy and the determination and the way that was delivered. And it was so she does know this, it was very one note. And you need to give your audience excitement. So if Sarah and I were talking, and this is how we talked. So Sarah, yes, yeah, you want to make sure that you deliver a story with impact and excitement, right? We all be, right? Going to sleep. So you have to have that energy. And you can't be like you've had 50,000 cups of coffee, because the audience can't deal with that. But it also can't be the other extent where it's so mellow and zen that they go into almost meditation mode.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay. So let's see. I'm actually might put you on the spot here because
go for it.
With speaking, you're good at this. I love this. So with speaking, there is a very sort of physical element in your body and how you are holding yourself and having your energy and things like that. And now I've been sitting here for almost an hour and a half. So
how much longer do you have? Is it 3 hours today?
It's two that are live. Yeah. So I'm definitely feeling like I need to get that circulation going and maybe feel more grounded. Do you have any exercises that you do with people around that kind of thing?
To get their body feeling more moved? Yeah. Yep. So, okay. The first thing comes to my mind, and it's going to actually help you relax all the muscles. And I'm going to tell you, you're all going to think this is crazy. It just really works. And you do some of this form if you do yoga and stuff, but I want you to do a full body scream without screaming. So okay. Your whole body into it. So I'm going to imagine what I'm doing. It's like you're going to tighten up your toes. You're going to tighten up your arms. You're going to do everything, tighten up your mouth. And I'm going to imagine what it looks like now. I'm so embarrassed that I'm doing it, but it does allow you to
I'm going to do it with you, and everybody who's watching, you should do it too. Okay, here we go.
Totally do it. And especially if you have some emotional stuff that's going on, this will totally relax your body. So even if you're feeling scared before you present and feeling anxiety, if you're feeling just mad about something, you can scream when there's nobody around. We're not going to scream on video. So you can do it in your car, do it when, nobody thinks you're going to be hurt or something like that. So I'm going to demo it first. So okay. Just 3 seconds, and then I'm going to come back and join me. Okay, ready?
I'm good.
Like full mouth scream, all of it, like the vocal, the whole bit without expressing, and you tighten up everything in your body. You'll feel such a release afterwards, and I typically do it 3 times. So let's do it 3 times.
Okay, so hold on just a second. I'm totally going to put my team members on the spot here. They're going to hate me for this, but let's say hello.
Yay!
I'm going to turn this off. So Laura and Katie, you're going to do this with us. Here we go.
And also, I'll say 1, 2, 3, we'll do it. And let's say stop. And we'll take a moment. 1, 2, 3, we'll do it. We'll stop. 1, 2, 3, we'll do it. And all you watching this, make sure you do it. You're going to find that this is just releases stagnant energy, releases your shoulders, releases your jaws, releases your feet. You're going to tighten everything from the tip of your toes to all the way to the top of your head. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Stop. 1, 2, 3. Stop. One more time. Somebody came in the video. If you can join us. 1, 2, 3. Give it your best. Tighten everything as much as you can. And relax. Woo, how do you feel?
Yeah, wow. A whole surge of energy there. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you so much for playing with us.
Good sports. I love it.
Yeah, it really it allows you to have a boost of energy, but it also relaxes you at the same time, which is really cool.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So it's funny, as a dancer, you learn this actually. If you want to have an intense moment, you actually have to relax fully. And it's almost like a lot of us operate. It's like what you were saying earlier with the energy and the monotoneness or whatever. It's like we operate at this middle energy all the time, but to feel full intensity is what allows you to feel full relaxation and start to tap into that range of physicality. So,
and I love it because you can do this anywhere. You could do it in your car. You don't raise your hands while you're driving. You could do it in your car and nobody knows. So if somebody cuts you off and it really gets you mad, just do it. And I like the 3 times. Something about the 3rd time just gives the full relaxation.
I love it. Okay, awesome. So I want to talk around one of the things that you talk with people about a lot when it comes to speaking is when they get to that moment of selling and speaking, which is sometimes the hardest moment, and people struggle with that. What are some of the challenges that people have, and how can they do that better?
And I think this is very much, whether you're speaking or you're creating content that you want to sell, right? This is all in the same realm, because if you're wanting to sell your content, you got to think about this perspective. And then you want to make sure that when it comes to you, whether you're writing out a talk and writing your closing, or ending your content creation where you might want to offer a new program, you have to really give it the time and energy it deserves. So what most people do is they don't. They just kind of hope that they get their closing right. So for example, speakers often do this. They'll go and they present, they have 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 40 minutes, 90 minutes. They get to the closing and say, especially if they're business owners, well, thank you all. It was great presenting to you today. And if you want to work with me, come and see me. Now, would you say, Sarah, that that's an effective closing?
Probably not.
Not. So you really have to think about that closing. You have to give it the time and energy that it needs, because if you don't, what happens is nobody moves forward. And if nobody moves forward, then you're not making the impact that you want, and you're not creating the income that you want at the same time. So when it comes to the closing, here's another strategy. Besides preparing it, you have to practice it. So if it's written form, yes, you can, it's a different, you can write it all out. But if you're speaking on video, speaking on stage, you're getting to your closing, you have to practice it, because what you do in your practice will show up in your presentation. I'm going to say it again. What you do in your practice will show up in your presentation. So if you're not practicing it, you get up there, you're going to do the same thing that other person just did, which, all right, well, okay, work with me if you want to, and you walk away. Well, you get the time, right? You get the time signal, meaning that you're out of time because you didn't plan it in there and didn't practice it. The other thing in the delivery of the closing is you want to make sure that nothing changes in your delivery. So if you're somebody that comes across very much as speaking from the heart, or you're high energy, very passionate about what you do, nothing can change when you get to that closing. Meaning, because the reason is the subconscious mind of your audience, your viewers, people that listen to your closing or hear in your closing, are taking that in. And the subconscious mind is going to put on alert. Danger, danger, danger. Something's not right. Don't work with that person because something shifted in their delivery. And if shifted in their delivery means to the audience, then there's something, I can't trust them in the way that I want it to. So make sure everything is consistent from the time that you start your presentation all the way to the closing, so that you can build that know, like, and trust factor. They can see that you are the same. What you're presenting in the beginning is the same thing that you're presenting at the end.
All right. Easier said than done sometimes, but yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. I've seen it.
And the other thing that comes to my mind to share is that you want to watch for higher pitch. So if you have a higher pitch voice, I have a higher pitch voice. If you have a higher pitch voice, you need to watch that you don't go in that higher register. Because if it's a higher register voice, it's like a chalkboard. Not appealing to listen to. And so you want to make sure that your voice stays grounded. It doesn't need to, you don't need to change your voice, but it sounds grounded enough that you come across as confident. Higher pitch voice says you're not confident.
Interesting. Okay. Well, I've been told, it's funny now that I've started a podcast. I actually have 2 podcasts now officially. And, I've had people hear my voice. Sometimes when people hear their own voice, especially on a recording, they're like, oh my gosh, is that what I sound like? People don't like it. It's something that you have to get used to, but I've had people compliment my voice. And so it falls, I think, in one of those places that is nice. So always good to hear, but something to be aware of for sure.
And sometimes it can sound like, I don't mind my voice on Zoom, but when they record my 3-day event, something happens to it's like I sound like higher. And I've heard myself on video enough that it doesn't make me uncomfortable. When I hear that, I'm like, oh, it doesn't sound good.
That's awesome.
You could always edit. There's always editing, right? So you could
With
always bring
video,
down the
yeah.
live.
So for sure, in my world, although I love speaking and being in front of live audiences, and actually hope to be doing more of that in the near future. But yeah, in the world of when it comes to video or recorded content, podcast episodes, and all that stuff, you can always edit. You can always retake and those kinds of things. Although this live stream is a bit of an exception to that. We are out there.
And you could always, not in this case, but you could always, if you do a live stream, you don't like it, take it down.
Well,
right?
exactly.
Right? Not that we would do this today, but if you find like, oh my gosh, it really wasn't clear. I remember I did a Facebook Live for the first time years ago, and I was just testing it. And I was like, oh, you need to take that down. It's so bad because I didn't plan like I normally think about what I'm going to say. And I was just on there. I'm like, nobody's going to hire Amanda Rose to speaking coach if she's got this crappy video out there. So I took it down. That's the beauty of it. It can disappear.
That's right.
And you can put it private too.
I don't know about you. I find people are more forgiving than we give them credit for. I think sometimes, people beat themselves up because it wasn't perfect or they did something wrong or whatever, when I honestly think in a lot of cases, our audience is rooting for us, right? And if you're showing up and you're putting yourself out there, they want to support you, right? So tell me a story. Since you're a speaker and you've been in front of lots of rooms, I'm sure it hasn't always gone perfectly. But when, maybe something went wrong or whatever, like that scary, nervous moment, and how it ended up for you. How did you sort of, what happened?
So I'll share with you something happened at one of my live events, and I'm very organized. I plan everything out, and the timing of stuff didn't work the way that it normally worked. And I went way over. And I don't normally do that because I want to honor the times that I shared with people within a little wiggle room. And I said, you got 15 more minutes, but it actually went over an hour. And then we had Q&A afterwards for the upgraded ticket holders. And so it ended up being really late. And I remember putting my head on the table after everybody left with my team and basically like, I just screwed up, and just really feeling so bad. And like, nobody's going to trust me to help them because I can't honor the time that I was given for them. And the reality is that I felt really bad about that because I'm a woman of integrity. And the next day I got up and I woke up and had, okay, do this, and fix it. Just fix it, And so I had a clear plan that came to me in the wee hours of the night to kind of how to map it out and to fix it and to get everything back on track. So even if you mess up, and you're going to mess up, you're a human being. We all mess up.
Yeah.
Right? Even speaker trainer Amanda Rose, yes, I mess up. You can fix it. Right? There's nothing that you're probably going to do that's going to be so pivotal wrong that it just can't be fixable. Because even if you go and you do a presentation, it doesn't go the way you want. Look at it and ask yourself what went well and what would I change next time? Because now you can learn from that and change it. Because if you don't take an opportunity to learn from the mistakes, then they just become mistakes. If you take an opportunity to learn from it, they become client stories that you can tell your future clients how you overcame stuff, and you get great tools how to do things better.
I love it. Yeah. Yeah, no doubt that we've all been to that place where we say screwed up or even just felt like it could have been better, beating ourselves up when in reality, nobody else is looking at it that way.
That's right. That's right. We're way harder on ourselves, way harder.
Always.
A little bit of imperfection is good. A little bit of imperfection is good because it helps your audience relate to you.
Yes. There's a balance there for sure.
Yeah.
I agree with that 100%. I also, and I feel like if it's too perfect, you lose that relatability factor, and it tells me that you're not pushing your comfort zone anymore, right? Like you're too comfortable. What people want, and part of what is exciting is to see people who are pushing their comfort zone and growing and learning. And it's so when those little things happen, and like you said, I figure out how to fix it, and you learn from it for the next time, and you keep pushing yourself. So I think that's such an important piece.
Totally agree with you. Yep. I like to say I'm perfect. And I also ask my audience as well to agree to be perfectly imperfect, right? Because then we can let go of the perfection, and the imperfection, allowing us to be perfectly imperfect allows us to be real, authentic, and not so rigid and stiff, so the audience can connect with you and your viewers.
I love it. Amanda, thank you so much for being here. I want to honor your time, and I'm waiting on my next guest here, which is why I might be getting a little bit distracted.
We can still talk.
Yeah, if you're willing to hang around, I'll
hang out with you anytime. And I know Biba, she's amazing. So I do want to recommend that everybody hang on for that.
I want to give her a chance to join us. And I will take a moment. Let's see if I can do this part. And well, I guess the podcast is in the corner there, and invite people again to check out the Content Creation Coach podcast. So Amanda Rose's interview, her episode is live. It's one of the first 3 episodes that are out there. Listen to it. Yeah, it's fantastic. Take a listen, leave us a review, and we're hoping to celebrate some reviews and some subscribers. I'm going to be doing a drawing on May 6th for anybody who has left us a review on the podcast to build that up. It really does help. So check it out, contentcreationcoach.com/podcast. If anybody's new with us, we are on multiple platforms. Apple Podcasts is having some issues right now because they're in the middle of changing over to a new podcasting thing, and they're in kind of beta, and I submitted it a while ago, and it's unfortunately not working well. So that's, one of those things. I actually remember Amanda Rose being in an event with a woman who is phenomenal. She had, 500 or so people in the room. I think it was 3 days. And on day 3 was going to be her big book launch. And she was going to stand up on the stage and tell everybody, go check out my book on Amazon, blah, blah, blah. And they had a glitch like that, where her book didn't show up on Amazon, like something went wrong with it. And it's part of that journey. And she stood up there and said, this is what we were going to do. And, it's not going to go the way I thought it was going to go. It's amazing because everybody, like we were just talking about, supported her, went with her, ended up buying it later. She still made the bestseller list and did all that stuff. So you fix it, right? You go with it.
Yeah. Yep. Figure out another way to do it. There's always a way. Absolutely. And if you don't know, go to some friend, a team member, a family member, ask them, what do I do to fix this? Because there's always those problem solvers in there and that love to solve a problem, and they'll figure a way to make it work for you.
Fantastic. Well, it looks like Biba has joined us. I haven't done any overlapping yet, but I'm going to bring her on.
Hi, Biba.
I was assistant. I said, I'm here. Hi, Amanda. How are you?
Good to see you.
In the house.
I love it. So how do you two know each other?
Oh, we met a few years ago at an event somewhere, and I think in Palm Beach or something. Yeah.
You invited me to be part of your summit.
Also, yeah. Also.
Fantastic.
And I will be part of your summit too. So, it's a big family.
Yay, yes. It's a very big family.
Thank you again.
Oh, my pleasure. Have
Bye,
fun.
Amanda. Thank you. Talk to you soon.
Siva Pedron in the house. I'm fantastic. I'm doing really well. How are you?
I'm glad. You said we party, so I'm ready to party.
Let's party. Do you want to see my confetti?
Don't you have like a music to party? I don't have that.
But I have confetti. There's our confetti.
Oh, cool. I love it. That's really cool.
So, Viva, yes, you are the end of the party here. We've been partying for a while, but Gotta
I guess everybody's hot now. We ready to dance? Are you
go
ready
out
to
with a bang. I'm ready.
Okay, cool.
And you have so many wonderful things. And we actually have kind of a theme going. It seems like you haven't been here for the whole thing, but talking about really owning who we are, what we're worth. It's been a thread that goes through so much of what we've been talking about. And I think you're right in alignment with that.
Yeah.
But before we dive in, I realize I'm just ready to jump in and party. Why don't you tell everybody a little bit more about who you are, where you are, and what you do?
Well, so as you say, my name is Viva Peron. I guess people will notice that I have an accent. So I'm from France, where I am right now. I'm in Normandy, but I normally live just right here in Miami. I live in the US for 18 years now. Because it was just a dream since I was a little girl. I always say that I would move to the US one day. Nobody believed me, of course. But then I never gave up on my dream. And I moved officially in 2003. And then that's how I started my business over there. And then that's how it changed my life, because what I did in order to move to the US in April 1998, I was tired of having a job and having a boss would tell me what to do. And I remember once I wanted to come to New York for 2 weeks just to look for a job. I was not planning to have a business in the US at the time. And then he said, no, you can't go for 2 weeks because 2 weeks is too long. I was the sales manager at the time. He said, the team needs you. You can. And I'm very stubborn. So I say, in the US, they have phone also. So we can call each other. If you need me, you can answer a question. So I went over there. And when I come back, I made the decision that nobody will make a decision for me anymore, whether it's to take vacation, and that I wanted to start a business. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I said, I want something that I can manage from anywhere in the world with a phone, a computer, and an internet connection. And we were in 1998, so that was the beginning of internet. There is no social media at the time. And since I didn't have any money to invest, because I was making a lot of money, but I was spending the money. So I never saved any money. So I quit my job on a Friday evening, started a business on Monday morning. I started as a virtual assistant because I just needed to invest in a computer, and that's it. And then I had this business within 6 months. Well, I was never an assistant before, so I was not good at typing and that kind of thing. So within 6 months, it became like a telemarketing company. And then after 2 years, I said, okay, I'm going to do the test. I'm going to go to New York for 2 weeks again and see if I can continue to have my clients. So I called everybody. It was in 2000. I called everybody and I said, I'm leaving for 2 weeks, but don't worry, I will do the work. And when I came back, because I didn't know if the phone will work, if the internet connection will work. I said, just in case, they have to know. So I did it, came back. And when I called them back, everybody say, oh, can you remind me when you're leaving to New York for vacation? And I said, first, that was not vacation. And then I'm just back. And everybody said, how did you do? We receive everything, because at the time I was setting up appointment for them, or I was selling stuff on the phone. And I remember at the time, the phone connection was like $1 a minute. So I paid a lot of money at a time, but that was my dream. So I said, if I have to pay for the dream, I pay for the dream. And that's how I came to New York. And then I discovered networking when I arrived in New York, because in 2000, we didn't have networking in France. It changed, good for us, but I didn't know what it was. And in order to stay in the US, I needed to have a visa, of course. So I started a business organizing networking events. Which means when I started the business in France, I didn't know how to be a secretary, but I became a virtual assistant typing on computer. Then I moved to New York. I started a company to organize networking events when I pretty much didn't know what was networking. Plus, at the time, I was not speaking English fluently. I didn't know anybody. But so, of course, I had the telemarketing company in France. I couldn't start the telemarketing company in the US because I didn't speak English. So that's how I started. I started networking event. That was an opportunity for me to meet people, to improve my English. And then within less than 2 years, everybody say, how are you doing it? We know that you didn't speak English when you arrived. We know that you didn't know anybody, but now we can see you everywhere. How did you get all of this visibility? And at the time, I didn't know exactly what I was doing. I didn't have like marketing strategy. I said, I don't know. I guess what I'm doing, it's working. And then 2 years later, social media arrived. And then again, people say, how are you doing it? We see you everywhere in French and in English. How are you spending all day long on social media and on Facebook? And I say, no, I'm spending only 15 minutes a day on social media, and that's how I get clients. So that's really because people ask all the time that I became a coach. Because at first I was saying to people, okay, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and I was giving everything for free. But at some point I say, maybe there's something here. So that's how I became like a coach, and I got paid to do that. And today I'm really, so then I asked I added networking, social media, and then marketing in general. And today I'm more, I specify on branding, because branding is very important, especially when you're a solo entrepreneur, the personal branding, because you're selling yourself, your personality, not the product. And on mindset also, because whatever you do, if you don't have the right mindset, you can't sell anything. You can invest as much money as you want in courses, in coaching, and whatever you want. If you don't have the right mindset, that won't work. So people come to me to help them to transform their business, but I first work on their mindset. And then because I work with a mindset, that transforms the business and the marketing.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where we're going to go, I think, today. But you mentioned a little bit about social media, which is the primary topic of Biba's episode on the podcast, on the Content Creation Coach podcast. So go check that out for her take on social media strategy and all of those kinds of things. It's fantastic. But as you said, you talk a lot now about branding, personal branding. It's funny, I just went through a website revamp where it became much more of a personal brand. And so I know exactly what you're talking about. And you even have kind of a brand formula or something like that. Do you want to share that with us?
Yeah, actually the brand, because at some point, I tried to see, okay, a brand, what is the brand? So first of all, the brand, it's yourself. It's your personality, because people don't buy your services, they buy you first. But then with the brand, I said, what could be the acronym of brand and to help people, to really help them? So brand stands for break old habits of doing things, because usually we have like a routine in our business. And then it's very important that you learn from others and you don't do always the same thing. And most importantly, you don't just do the same thing over and over and think that are not working. And that's where it's very important to have a coach, to have a mentor, to have people around you, because you don't know what you don't know. So if you're always doing the same thing and then you complain because it's not working, but since you don't know the new strategy, well, it won't work. So first, the B will be for break all the habit of doing things. And then it's really the R, it's to revisit what works and what doesn't work. Because again, when you do things, especially when you start a business, you don't really know, you try stuff and you see people, oh, they're doing this, they're doing like a podcast. So I'm going to do this one is doing a video. Oh, I'm going on YouTube. Oh, this one is doing like a challenge. So I'm doing do a challenge. People do like what I call the butterfly, that strategy. They do a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
But then they don't have a real strategy. They don't have a marketing tactic. And then they just do stuff, but then they never track anything. So if you don't track anything, you don't know what's the strategy that bring you most of the client and most of the money. If you just do stuff. So if you look at what you do, that's why I said to people, usually I said, have a marketing plan for 3 months, not for 12 months, not for 6 months, because most of the time for people, 12 months is way too long, 6 months also. So I said, have a strategy for the next 3 months. Then you have like one specific strategy every month. So for example, the first month you promote, you have a training and you promote it through a webinar. The second month, you will do like a challenge. The third month, you can do something else. You can do Facebook Live. You can do whatever you want. You try different things, but then you track. So at the end of each month, how many people looked at you, how many prospect did you get, how many clients did you get, how much did you sell, was it easier to sell like your higher price, was it easier to sell the lower price? You track all of these so you know your conversion rate. And then, so at the end of the 3 months, you know what works the best. So why do you want to continue to do the strategy that's not working? But if you never tracked it, you just busy, and you just do it again. So when you know what it's working for you, then you duplicate. You don't have to restart all over again. You just duplicate. And then for the one who didn't work or didn't work correctly, it's not like you threw it away. You just say, how can I adapt that?
Yeah.
So you revisit and how I can change the title of my webinar. Maybe the title was not the best one. So I'm going to do a survey and see what people want. Maybe you didn't introduce the offer at the end correctly. Or like a lot of people, they do webinar or workshop. They don't even mention that they have an offer at the end. So of course, if you don't mention it, there's no way to sell it.
We were just talking about that with Amanda too. People do that on the stage.
And people do that very often. And I know, like when a year ago, when started the pandemic, I saw so many people do free stuff on internet or do interviews. And I look at some people, and mainly the people who were my clients or were at the time or even before. And I look at the interview, and then I contacted them. I said, why are you doing all of this interview every day? Oh, that's giving me visibility. I said, okay, but I just listened to the last 5 minutes of your interview. What's the call to action? Oh no, I don't have a call to action. I just want to have visibility. I say, who cares about visibility if you don't send them anywhere? You spend an hour or an hour and a half a day talking to people. You don't know who they are. You don't send them to a specific page. You don't send them anywhere. You don't know how many people were there. You don't know how you convert. And at the end, you don't even sell anything. You don't even mention your service. What's the purpose? And same thing, I started, so in March last year, we were confined for the first time in France. So I said, okay, I can't do conference live anymore. So how I get clients? So I started workshop for 60 euro an hour, for 2 hours. And then, of course, at the end, I was selling like an offer. And then I had people who look at me and say, oh, I saw that you're doing the workshop, the 2-hour workshop for 60 euro. That's cool. I'm going to do that too. Okay. I said, okay, I model other people, you model what I do, that's normal. But then I said, what do you sell at the end? And people say, oh, I was supposed to sell something? I say, yeah, because you don't know the behind the scene, because I sell the workshop for 60 euro for 2 hours. Then I do a special offer at the end. So I was doing like a special price on my VIP day. So people took the VIP day. But I said, then from the VIP day, I had people who took the coaching. But then I said, I do a special price on the first level, special price on the VIP day. But the coaching, 3, 6, or 12 months, I never changed the price. And that was to sell product from and services from 6,000 to 20,000 euro. So I started at 60 euro to $20,000. And people said, oh, I didn't realize that we had to do, because I saw the workshop was the sale. Yeah. So if you don't track what you do, you can do as many interview, workshop, whatever. If you never track anything, well, that won't work for you. So you really have to revisit everything and track everything that you do, and to see what's work, you just duplicate. And if it's not working, you just change and adapt, and then you do it again.
Got it. Okay. So that was a big, long tangent. We're on the R for the brand acronym here, right?
Yeah, but it's an important one, because people do a lot of mistakes on that.
Yes, they do.
The A works on new ideas of product or service. Don't sell the same thing over and over. You know the best way. There's so many strategy in marketing. So there's like, usually when I do a workshop, I show at least 14 different strategy, but there's even more than that. So again, try different things and track them and see if it's working or not. The N is neutralize the people who don't believe in you.
Sorry to interrupt, but did we skip the A or no?
The A was add new ideas or product.
I see. Okay.
The N, neutralize the naysayers and the people who don't believe in you and your vision. Because we go back to mindsets. Because when you do things, you will have people all the time who say, no, you can't do it. It's impossible. You won't be able to do it. Like when I said when I was a little girl that I will move to the United States, for years and years, people say, no, you can't. No, you don't have enough money. No, you can't do this. No, you can't do that. I said, okay, do whatever you say, whatever you say, I'm going to do it. So that's why it's very important that you have the wrong people around you. You have the right entourage and people who are positive, people who will support you, people who will help you and take you to up and ready to help you, and not people who will be jealous when you do something or say, oh, you do that, but it won't work. That's why it's very important to, once again, to have like a coach, a mentor, join a mastermind, or join a group of people, that you can have friends that are entrepreneurs also, and you want to join them. The only mistakes that most of the people do when they do like a free mastermind, and I did these mistakes too. And I remember a few years ago when I moved at the time, when I moved to Miami, I said, I'm going to do like a free mastermind because I don't know anybody. So that will be a way. But my coach at the time said, if you do it for free, it won't stay more than 3 months. I said, no, the women are in the group, they seems like motivated. Well, they're motivated for the first month. But if you don't invest in yourself and if you don't invest money, then you don't get the same result, because there's always, oh, I can't do this today, I can't be there today. When you pay for that. Yeah. And I paid, sometime I had a mastermind that I paid 20,000 or 30,000 euros. When I invest $30,000, I definitely want to have the return on my investment. So I'm going to be there. If I have, and most of the time I had to go to California to join the mass. So I was doing like Miami, San Diego, Miami, whatever I had to go, or LA. But I was on the plane, I was there, and I listened and I learned, and I was with people who also wanted to grow. So that's how you help each other. And when you're with positive people, that works much better.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then you have to dedicate your time to review every quarter. The same as I mentioned, you have your plan for the 3 months. Then you look every month at what you do. Then you do what's the result at the end of the quarter. And what will you do for the next quarter? Do you do exactly the same thing? If it's working well, what do you want to change? You just duplicate what you did and maybe at another level. Or you just duplicate, you raise your price. And then you do the same thing. So you don't have to work more. Everything's ready. You have the website ready. You have all the page ready. Your webinar is ready. Everything is ready. You just charge a little more. So you don't need more clients, but you don't need more effort, but you're just going to get more money.
I love it.
That's how you raise. That's how you make more doing less. So that's, the short version of the brand. But really, the more important, it's really to understand that people won't buy your service. They will buy you, your personality. So a lot of people are worried because they say, oh, other people do the same as me. Why should I sell it? Why should I be higher in my price? People can have the same expertise as you, but nobody has the same story. Mm-hmm. And people will connect or not with your story. The people who don't connect with what we do, we don't care. They won't be our clients. That's okay. We won't have everybody as a client. But as soon as people connect with you, then they want to be with you. They're more confident in you. Then they will be ready to pay for your price, whatever price you are, even if you're higher than others. And with you have a very established brand. Also, you have the credibility. So, which means that when people come to you, they already know who you are, what you do, who do you serve, and what's the benefits of working with you. And it's because of all of this you connected with on social media, on your email, when you do events, so they already know all of this from you. So when they come to you, they're ready, and they're ready to pay. And you can be double or triple that other people. If they connect with you, they connect with your story, they want to work with you and nobody else. Doesn't matter the price you are.
That's the power of that connection and story for sure. And that's been the theme, as I said today. Hopefully people have heard it enough that it's really sinking in, but you don't just sell, the thing, you sell yourself. You connect because of your story, your humanness almost, I want to say, like that's what people relate to. So that's what belongs in your content. That's what belongs in your messaging. It's fantastic. Man, you can really talk. And you said that's the short version of the story, but that's there was a lot. And before we run out of time, you have one other sort of acronym. I don't know if it's an acronym really. The formula that I love. You call it the formula to transform your life. And your story that you told us already is really a representation of this, the MDR formula. Tell us about that.
The MDR, actually, it's MDR in French is the equivalent of LOL. If we do the translation in English.
Oh, interesting. LOL, like
LOL, yeah. But in my case,
I have to ask you then, what does MDR stand for in French? Can you say?
In French, mort de rire.
Mort de rire. Excellent. Okay.
That I don't know the exact. It's die of laughing or something like that.
Okay.
So it's pretty much equivalent. But for me, MDR has another meaning. It's motivation. Your motivation plus your determination equal the realization of all of your dreams and goals. And that's completely mindset. And actually, I published in last September, I published my book number 6. It's on mindset. And that's the title of the book, MDR, the winning formula to succeed your life. And I'm working on the US version right now. So in a few months, you will have the US version. And it's really to show people that whatever, and we were speaking, don't listen to the people who are negative, have the right entourage. Because if I listen to all of the people who say that I won't be able to get my dreams and move to United States, I wouldn't be who I am today. If I listen, when I tried to move, so people around me say, you can't. Then I started to see immigration lawyers. The first 5 immigration lawyers say, no, there's no way you can get the visa because you don't have enough money, because you don't have a big project, because you don't have this, because you don't have that. If I listen to them, they were professional. They're supposed to know what they say. If I listen to them, and it took me like 2 years to see those 5, I could give up and say, well, if they say no, well, I guess I can't. So I just gave up on my project. But I never gave up. And I said, if I have to see like 100 lawyers, and, they charge at least 400 euro just for the first visit, for the first consultation. I said, no, I will go to the next one, until the next one, until there's one that say, yes, it's possible. And the number 6 say, yes, it's possible. And he say, you don't need, like others say, you need $1 million to invest. Another one say you need 500,000. Another one say you have to be married. The number 6 say, you don't need $1 million. You don't need 500,000. You don't even need $100,000 to invest. We will invest what you need according to your project. You don't need to be married unless you want to be married. And I got my visa in 6 months. So when you have that determination, you really want something strongly, and you know that whatever happened, we can say like 100 times that there's going to have obstacles. If you know that's what you want, there's nothing and nobody that can stop you. And that's why on the book, on the French version, I have like 6 people, a testimonial of 6 people, and I have 6 different in the US book, but I have people who went through war, who went through rape, who were adopted, who were plenty of things that could kill their life, could make them people very negative. And I said, I'm not a good person, or I will never be able to do this or that. And the book is really to show that if you have the right mindset, if you have that motivation and the determination, whatever happened in your life, you can succeed, even if you have the widest dream. So it's really about the mindset and how in business, as an entrepreneur, you have to work on your mindset first, be convinced that you can succeed. And then when you have that, it doesn't matter if you have obstacles. It doesn't matter, how many people told me that I will never be able to move to the United States. Then I moved, I got my visa. I said, okay, I'm good. Everything is okay. Then a few months later, I learned that I had breast cancer, and then another obstacles. Then I started again the business. And then 10 years later, I had another breast cancer. There's always something in your life that can stop you. But if you are strong enough, if you have this motivation and this determination, if you do have the MDR formula, and the good thing is that MDR works perfectly in English. So I didn't even have to change the name of the formula. That I just have to change in realization. In France, it's an S. In the US, it's a Z. But other than that, it's exactly the same formula. As long as you know exactly what you want and you don't let anybody tell you that it's not possible, nothing, absolutely nothing, and nobody can stop you. It can take times, it's not like that. It can take a long time. It can take longer than you expect, but whatever you want, you will get it. So just remember the formula when you have like issue and say, oh, what did she say? MDR. Okay. Let's be MDR and let's do it, and then I will get what I want.
Oh, so motivational, should I say?
So,
Viva, this is a fantastic way to end our event here. Thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome. Thanks for the invite.
Back up. It was a lot of fun. And I hope people feel inspired to have that. What I love about that formula is it puts it really in our control. And I've had other people say things like, well, it's the whatever, it's the market, or it has to do with your, like you were saying, your ability, your money situation, or you're this or you're that. You know what? If you have the level of motivation and determination, you can overcome any of those things. So
a good example that I like to show, and I mentioned it in the book, it's like I was ready to say Donald Trump, Disney.
Oh yes, Walt Disney.
Walt Disney. Thank you, Walt Disney. He had to go to more than 300 banks for people to say yes to his project.
That's right.
So just remember, when we buy a house, most of the time we go to one bank, eventually two banks, they say, no, we stop. Okay, I can't have a house. So he went through more than 300 banks to realize his dream. Why? Because he knew that it was possible, and he will never let anybody or anything say it's not possible. He dreamed, he had the vision, he knew it was possible, so it just became possible. And just look what all the Disney park and Disneyland became, and everything. So
if he had not had
it wasn't.
That's right.
Absolutely.
That's exactly right. Awesome. Oh, Biba, thank you again, everybody. Check out, I've got Biba's website on the screen here, bibapadron.com. And she, of course, has her podcast episode out, contentcreationcoach.com/podcast. And that one's all about her social media, her approach to social media and strategy there. It's fantastic. So
for people to see the US version of my website, you go to bibapadron.com/US. So you go to the US.
That's true. It's there, yeah, as well. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here. Take care. And everybody, thank you for joining me today and being part of this. I have one last update. So I clicked the Apple Podcast link one more time, and it's working. There's another step that's working. So the app now has it linked in the app and showed up at least a little bit. So progress. Should we celebrate a little bit of progress here? Woohoo! So do go to contentcreationcoach.com/podcast and check it out. All of these wonderful people I talked to today are on the show. They're on the first episodes, and we've got so many more coming. And of course, if you want to hear about it, get reminded about it, be sure to subscribe, but you can also download one of the free resources on my website. And then you'll get on my newsletter and be able to hear all about what's going on and what's coming out. So thank you again for being here. And I will see you again sometime soon.